All right, let's talk money, y'all. So the investor and portfolio manager Mike Green came out last week and basically said that the economic data that the United States government puts out in regards to what the poverty line is false and it needs to be updated. I forget what the exact number was, but I think the United States government has the poverty line somewhere between like 38 and $45,000 a year, right, for a family of four. And Mike Green was basically saying, nah, y'all gotta update that. This is crazy. Like, I know I've been making money and millions on millions, and I'm this big portfolio manager, and my kids and my wife and everything is good. But like, when I looked at this data, I was like, nah, this can't be right. So he put out his economic data and said that the real math or cost of survival for a family of four in the United States is $140,000 a year. And I said, Mike, it definitely is higher than 45,000 for a family of four, but 140, you might be pushing it. And then I saw the breakdown. Let's go over this breakdown, and I'm gonna compare it to myself, who lives a modest life in Connecticut, right? And show you how realistic what this dude is saying is real. And why is the government hiring this from us, right? So childcare, $32,000 a year. $32,700 a year is roughly $2,700 a month, right? We are blessed. We have a 14-year-old and an 8-year-old, so we don't have daycare costs. We got just general costs of raising children and after school activities and sports and things of that nature. But we don't have that bill. But from my friends who have kids, I know people who are paying $1,500 to $1,800 a month for one kid. So $2,700 is definitely a realistic number if you a family of four.
It's the dumbest thing in the world, in my opinion. And this is why we have to start minding this stuff out, because we keep talking about childcare. The childcare industry, in my opinion, is just a way for people to finesse money out of people that are not living traditional lifestyles. There's no reason why you should ever choose, first of all, to have a child out of wedlock. Secondly, if you are married and you decide to have children, you need to make sure that you can afford them. And when I mean affordability, I tend to look at it as a traditional lifestyle, meaning that the man goes to work, they minimize their expenses, they have a community around them in which they, usually work together with different people. So in my family in particular, the way that I raised my daughter, and I didn't even have a lot of money because my daughter was born in 2008 in the middle of the crisis. All of the girls kind of worked together with their children, and they didn't work, and they spent time at the library, they did things. And so if we had people that more or less embrace traditional values, you can eliminate the majority of these costs. $32,000 a year for childcare. Think about that for a minute. That means that whomever it is that needs to go to work to pay for childcare, when you add in taxes on top of that, probably should be making quadruple that. They should probably be making somewhere at least around $90,000 a year so they can keep a portion of their income. So you're basically investing in somebody else, inputting their values, taking care of your kids, possibly risking something negative happening to your kids and you not being there. You are also sacrificing your time. And so I believe, and this is one of the things that I stood on, when a child is not old enough to go to school full time, then you should definitely be a stay-at-home mother. And you can minimize the cost of all of the rest of this stuff. It's almost like people have completely forgotten what it meant to be poor. And then when you get to a certain level, you get so far removed from it that you don't understand what it means to survive and thrive in an environment where it doesn't require you to spend a whole lot of money to do so. If you're telling me that $140,000 a year is the minimum for the poverty line, and I understand what they're saying, I understand what they're trying to communicate, I understand what they're trying to say about the rising costs of all of these things, healthcare, food, and all of this stuff, I call BS. I call BS. If you're making your own food at home, as I say, housing is $23,000 a year. If you're cooking, I call BS that it costs you $22,000 a year in food. I don't believe that. Or I'm sorry, that's housing. Food is 14. All right, we'll roll with food. I was looking at things the wrong way. Housing 22 and change. Transportation, you can completely eliminate that. And that's one of the things that I did when my daughter was born. I just went and bought a used car, and I bought it at the auction, and I drove it till the wheels fell off, and then I bought another one cash, and then I just kept driving that. And so I don't have to have a car note. I don't believe that you should have to pay $14,000 a year for transportation. I don't believe that. Other essentials, you can mix that up. Come on, man. I'm not going for this, bro. You could, right off the bat, you could eliminate almost 50K right off of this budget. So I don't know what they looking at, but I'm gonna hear the rest of what he got to say as far as describing his own lifestyle.
Mom, dad, or two parents and two children, who are pre-grade school. You got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. That's realistic. Okay, bet. It's not my personal situation, but that's a realistic number, right? Housing, $23,200. That is roughly $1,900 a month. I know plenty of people who pay $2,200 a month for rent, $2,500 a month for rent.
And again, all of this is voluntary. All of this is voluntary. You can lower your costs, but people justify it because they adjust according to their lifestyle. They adjust their income according to the lifestyle that they want. You don't have to pay this amount of money for all of this stuff. You don't. And if you're talking, because we saying poverty, the poverty line, all right? The real, do you know what it means to be in poverty? Poverty. That means that you all the way down at the bottom and you all pretty much desolate and surviving. No, I'm not going with it. You're never going to sell me on it. Somebody got to sell me on this and convince me.
Or if you bought a house in the past 3 or 4 years, post 2021, you got a mortgage of $2,600 to $3,500 a month.
Nobody practice.
Yeah, they paying more than $23,000 a year in housing. You know what I'm saying? Because that housing figure is 19. So, okay, you may not have the child costs, but you probably got the $3,200 mortgage or the $2,600 rent. So take it from the child costs, add it to that. We also were blessed. We bought in 2019. So my housing cost is significantly lower. My mortgage is only $1,200 a month, which is only $14,000 a year. So we're significantly under there. Food, he got it at $14,700. That is roughly $1,200 a month. We're spending more than that on food. I'll tell you right now.
People be going out to eat. They be door dashing. They be buying stuff that they don't need.
On average, are spending $1,500 to $1,600 a month on food, and that's just grocery store food. You know what I'm saying? That's not us eating out and we eat out. So we're close to the $18,000 to $21,000 a year on food in my household for my family.
That's crazy,
right? Transportation. We paid off our cars, so we don't have any car notes or anything like that. All we have is insurance on the cars and gas. So for cars, we're about $3,500 a year to cover them, insure them, and gas.
Saved 11 grand off of that right away.
$4,000 a year. Transportation at $14,008. That's roughly $1,200 a month on transportation, right?
That's crazy. Nobody should.
That's two people with $450 to $500 car notes and some insurance. You got a $450 car note, your spouse got a $520 car note, and y'all both paying $100 a month in insurance. Y'all paying way more than that when you factor in gas and everything and maintenance and stuff like that. So that number also is realistic. Healthcare, he got it at $10,500. That is a realistic number if depending on what you got going on. Do you have to pay for healthcare out of pocket? Do you do the subsidized stuff through the Obamacare marketplace? Trump is switching all that up now. So come January, the healthcare is about to be even more crazy. Or do you have healthcare that's sponsored through your employer? We're blessed. My wife works for an employer who subsidizes probably 75 to 80% of the healthcare costs. So we pay roughly $380 a month for healthcare for the family of 4. But I'm an entrepreneur. And when I was looking up healthcare before my wife and went and got a full-time job and we got that blessing of a benefit, my healthcare for my family of 4 out of pocket as an entrepreneur was $2,400 a month. That's almost $29,000 a year if you're an entrepreneur.
I'm going to deep dive into this a little bit more because I said that I was going to do this on the Millionaire Morning Show. You don't have to spend that much on healthcare, but we'll get there.
Or someone who doesn't have a subsidized plan through an employer out of your pocket. So if you're an entrepreneur, you're paying way more than $10,000 a year, but you could be paying less depending on what your healthcare provider. That number is also realistic. And then he has $21,000 or $22,000 for other essentials, also very realistic. That's $2,000 a month. That could be your toiletries in your house. That could be sports for your kids. That could be, there's so many clothes, something breaks in.
Remember, he said because we getting off track here when he's describing this. Poverty line. The real poverty line. We're not talking about sports for your kids, going out to eat, door dashing and all of this stuff. Poverty line. This is not poverty. $140,000 a year under that, trying to survive, I am not going for it. Let me know what y'all think inside of the chat. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. Teach Henley 40% off your first order, 20% off for life. I love you. I appreciate you. We're going to talk about this in depth tomorrow.